Welcome, BBCs, to episode number 256 of the Broken by Concept podcast, the number one League of Legends solo queue educational and motivational podcast. Curtis, Charlie, Smurfing. We're going to be exploring the topic of smurfing in League of Legends from all different angles. We're going to be exploring the psychology because we love psychology and mindset of players on this podcast. And we're going to be starting off with the 5 archetypes of smurfing. These are, psychology or like profiles. We're sort of going to profile the different types of smurfers. So we've got Dopamine Danny. We've got Escapist Emily. We've got new accountant Nate. We've got duo Queue Quinten. And we've got MMR Michael. We're going to be exploring these one by one. And then we're going to have a bit of general topics about smurfing. Because the archetypes, these are things we've observed over our years coaching in League of Legends. Maybe potentially smurfing ourselves. We're obviously not angels on this podcast, right? But we're trying to make these topics open dialogue in the community so we can explore them. So let's start off with Dopamine Danny, guys. This is probably, would you say, the most common use case of smurfing? And what is Dopamine Danny?
Yeah, I think it kind of depends on the rank a little bit. I reckon just Dopamine Dannies, I'm imagining like maybe someone who's like low diamond, high emerald, like around that area. Maybe they don't want to put in that extra effort to climb a little bit higher than that, and they just want to stomp noobs. Like, it's a bit of a noob stomper archetype of you, Dopamine Danny. Like, I'm thinking of Kane players, Kha'Zix players, Draven players. We just want to like get a lot of kills in League of Legends. And that's why these people smurf. Some people just smurf to have fun, and that's where Dopamine Danny kind of lives. And
killing people in League of Legends is probably like the most fun thing to do, especially winning that way. And the higher ranks you go, it's not about killing people. Killing people is just a means to get experience and gold. There's many different avenues with it. And when you say, Charles, that emerald, diamond, like low master and stuff, maybe we're just biased because that's the most experience of, around the players that we see, but my mindset instantly went there as well because that's when the game starts to get really hard and you can't win the game just from kills, and the game gets really confusing if you're playing the game just from kills.
Exactly. Actually, to climb higher than that, you actually need to suppress your urge to get dopamine. Yes. That's the problem. That's why they have to smurf, because you can't dopamine hunt to the higher ranks. It's very difficult to do so anyway.
Yeah, you need to start thinking about the game more holistically, right? And so if you're just only tunnel visioning on kills, you're just going to plateau, right? And so that's where, like, I think this whole Dopamine Danny archetype, where it really comes in is where you're just not getting, you're not snowballing as frequently, right? And this is probably with people like, again, they play Kha'Zix or Draven or, any of these, Katarina, these sorts of champions. Like, well, there will come a point where it's like, wow, it's actually really hard to snowball now. I'm actually just not getting that many kills. And, and as a result, it's actually just more fun for me to go smurf in the lower elo bracket and just stomp and just get a ridiculous amount of kills and run over the game. And objectively, that will give you a lot of dopamine. And for some people, they chase that urge. And I think this is something we'll circle back later on, just, in that broader conversation of like the culture behind gaming. I think there's a broader conversation there that needs to be brought in. So I think that's a very basic archetype, this one. Dopamine Danny, not overly complicated.
All right, next up, we've got Escapist Emily. And we've sort of got talking about here more ranked anxiety. So creating a new account, climbing a new account to potentially escape some narrative or some aspect of the game. What is Escapist Emily escaping, you guys think?
Yeah, I guess it's generally avoiding the plateau points of the climb, right? Like, we all know that to climb in League of Legends largely comes from getting to your level of play, being met with some problems that are stopping you from getting higher, like you're missing certain skills, you're mis-executing certain skills. You need to improve and to actually overcome that plateau to then move to the higher ranks. But some people, they reach this plateau point, maybe they're just naturally a good gamer, they reach a certain point. Instead of overcoming the plateau, they basically just start the game again from level 1. They hit the reset button. They go again up to that plateau. They go back to level 1, up to the plateau. And there's, in League of Legends, it's such a diverse and like deep game that there's so many ways to do this. You can go new roles, new champions, new accounts. And there's so many ways to escape the plateau, I guess, which is what Emily in this case does.
Yeah, no, yeah, totally. And I think that I would say this is actually very, very common. I think the plateau point is a very painful experience for everyone, objectively, right? Hitting your plateau can be a bit of a slap in the face. You know, you're starting to win games, you're starting to climb, and then it's like, wow, I'm just been at the same rank for the past 3 weeks. What the hell is going on? And so instead of getting into the details and trying to figure out what's going on, it's very convenient to start a new account in aims to either, potentially, just have a fresh start, new account. Maybe won't ruin the MMR and whatever, or just in general, just escape the reality of that situation. I just want to avoid the issue, right? Because the plateau is just a really big issue. You're faced with this giant issue, and admittedly, it can be hard to face. If you and especially if you're in a situation where you're not getting access to coaching or you don't have someone else helping you, it can be very overwhelming. And that's where that ranked anxiety starts to kick in as well. It's like, oh man, I really don't want to queue up on my main. Games are so hard. And yeah, smurfing really kind of fits the bill because the thing is here with Escapist Emily, they still want to play the game.
They still want to improve. Like I'm trying to think, what's the difference between Escapist Emily and Dopamine Danny? Because people will say, Dopamine Danny is different to me. Dopamine Danny is like, doesn't care about climbing at all. Again, just wants to get in and just get kills, just smurf, and just plays the game for just destroying everyone.
It's like the act of actually getting fed and like that, enjoying that process. Whereas Escapist Emily kind of wants to improve at the game, but can't, and is just avoiding the issue.
And it can be unconscious as well. It's not like Emily is reaching like Platinum 2 and then being like, oh, I don't want to put in the effort to get to Platinum 1. I'm going to smurf. It's like, no, that kind of erupts naturally. And it's like more of a feeling based decision than something that is logical. They're definitely not all doing it consciously.
Okay, next up we have new accounter Nate. And what we've got here is, Nate, not Nathan. I'm not a new accounter. These are people that we find love the sexy win rates. Ooh. They're playing to link to their friendship group, like, or just show off. It's like, hey guys, or they have it in like their Twitter bio or whatever it is. Look at my OPGG and look at this 70% win rate with this champion or whatever it is. I think that the new accounter, I think maybe could be subsections of this, because I think there's that one to like external validation, like really get really good win rates. New accounts, it can also be, it's like, okay, maybe it ties in a little bit with Escapist, and I want to sort of hit the reset button, and then that's just a good feeling to see, okay, I want to see how high I can climb again to see if I can pass my
It's a way to build confidence as well, I think, for people. Because if you think about it, right, like with going back to just briefly for Escapist Emily, like you get to this point where your win rate is inevitably going to drop because you're kind of reaching your plateau point, right? The limit of your skill. And then you lose confidence, right? And inevitably. And so making a new account, seeing that beautiful win rate, getting up the ranks, oh my God, I've got a 65. You see like the colors on OPG are different, like you get the red numbers and all that stuff, whatever. It feels it's sexy, right? It's sexy.
A fresh start, Nathan.
The fresh start. It's very hopeful. A fresh start's hopeful. Like for any endeavor in life. Like, where people, they've finished their working week. They're like, okay, this weekend, I'm going to clean my house and like, I'm going to have all these good habits and the house is never going to be dirty again, right? And that's so exciting. Then Monday happens, Tuesday happens, Wednesday happens, and then all the old habits are coming again and then it's just a mess. And so, okay, the next week, I'm going to be very clean. My kitchen's going to be very clean.
That's why people love New Year's resolutions as well.
That's right.
It's like new year, new me.
New year, new me. That's right.
They don't think about like, what about in a month? What about February? What
so
about
the gym
March?
in January is just pumping, and then it gets like less and less busy throughout the year, and you get like June, it's like dead.
So yeah, I think new accounter Nate is very much looking at profile, like their OPGG, their profile, the win rate, they don't want to see that 33% win rate champion that they've been learning. They want to have a clean slate. So I feel like the new accounter Nate, it's a lot of external validations going on psychologically. It's about how people see me, how people view me.
I agree. It's all optics and design for new accountant Nate. They just want to link the profile in the lobby. People are going to see their shiny colors, but we all know that those shiny colors do not last long. There's no real account with shiny colors. Well, it's all a facade.
Yeah, and let's actually get into this, right? Because when it comes to smurfing, right, people don't forget that the win rate is the culmination of winning at all of those skill brackets up until that point.
I've got a really succinct way to put this. Sorry to interrupt, Curtis, but the win rate describes the past, not the present. It literally describes the games you've played, not the game you're about to play. So it's not actually very accurate a lot of the time.
No, exactly right. Because but the culture around win rate is that this guy entering this game has a 65% win rate to win this
so
game.
scary.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's not true. That's not true at all. It's the culmination. And so that's the sexy thing about Smurf is that you built up this like story, and everyone's like, now when you load into a lobby and because people think about how they're perceived.
Absolutely.
They think, oh my God, people are going to look at my account. People get very, very kind of anxious about like loading into a game and people looking at their account and their match history and stuff like that, right? And so if they know they've got that beautiful, sexy win rate, they're protected. Everyone's going to look up to them. They've got this beautiful, shiny profile. And this is where I think that whole smurfing culture comes into play, Charles. You're talking off camera about, loading into a lobby and then people sharing their OPG or do you want to maybe walk us through what you were talking about before?
Yeah, I was just talking about the idea of like, it happens to me quite frequently where if I'm off roll or whatever and I asked if I can 80 carry, they'll ask me to link my account. I link my account. My account's not super pretty. I've played hundreds of games. I have like a slightly above 50% win rate. I don't have shiny KDAs. I have a Varus on my profile with 38% win rate on it. Like what a normal account looks like. You got some champions with good, some with bad. And like, then there's other people in the lobby who have way fewer games played, but they've got bigger win rates because they've just like climbed very like from like diamond to like low master or whatever. And they've just got high win rates doing that because the majority of those wins came in diamond, like you were saying, not in the game we're about to play.
And I will mention on this topic here, there's a whole dark side of the league community. There's like a subsection of league community that actually this becomes a very toxic habit. It's not uncommon. There are people out there that literally have like 15, 20, 25 accounts, and that's all they do. And I've had people admit to me just privately behind closed doors. They say, Curtis, like I really need help. I've got a problem here. I've made like 15 accounts. I keep getting to the same point, lowering my win rate and then going again. And I need help. Like this is, and like, we're kind of joking and making fun of these like whole archetypes, but this is actually a very big problem inside the league community. And I think that if you are watching this and you're in this sort of scenario where you feel yourself constantly being afraid or you're caring too much about the optics of your account, chances are you need to really you need to face it. This is a problem that needs to be addressed ASAP. It can't just be left unaddressed. It will ruin your relationship with the game.
I want to point out one thing that Riot have done really well on this topic, which is the change in the champ select that they did a while back where they removed your name.
Yeah.
That has helped a lot because I think we've all forgotten about this now, but think 2 years ago, people used to rock up in the lobby. They used to copy everyone's name.
Yeah.
I used to do that. I'll own up. I used to do this sometimes, right? Like years ago, you would put everyone's name into OPG. You would find everyone's win rates. Is everyone on their main champion? What's going on? And it would be a lot of account shaming. Right? But nowadays, you can't really do that. If you want to, you don't have to say anything in Champs League. If someone asks me for my account, I don't have to tell you. We'll just load into the game. Everyone's on an even playing field. So yeah, kudos to Riot for like hiding that. I think it has solved this problem quite substantially. I will say it happens way less frequently.
Okay. Next up, we have Duo Queue Quinten. So, Duo Queue, we've been very vocal about Duo Queue on this podcast. So maybe it's good to reference, our opinions on Duo Queue. Look at some older episodes, just like we've broken by concept of Duo Queue. But Duo Queue Quinten, I believe this one is they need to create a Smurf account, or the excuse is they need a Smurf account to play with their friend who's a lower rank.
Yeah, I was just going to say this is, again, very common. You see this a lot. They have a friend that's lower rank and they feel like I can't play with him, but I want to play with him. And when prompted, why don't you just play normal games with them or flex queue or whatever?
Ranked is more serious, a better
ranked
experience.
is more fun,
Yeah,
or ranked is more serious, and they want to improve, and I feel like I can help them improve. And yeah, I mean, I don't think there's too much to say about this, Charles.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just be honest. Like, I've been a bot lane player for a very long time, right? So Duo Q is kind of synonymous with the bot lane, and not super recently, but like within the last like 5 years, I have been in situations where I've like made accounts with people to duo. This has happened. Like, it's a very easy trap to fall into. Like, not even just to duo with someone lower ranked, but just to like have this like safe space almost, like this 2v8. Like, hey man, let's just go like make a new account together. We'll play in lower ranks and we'll just like kind of play together, us versus the world. It's very sexy. You can really waste a lot of time doing this. And yeah, I mean, I've been there. It's very, very easy to do. I've got a lot of friends, Nathan's laughing, who like are still kind of in this mindset. And it's a really tough one to get out of, especially in a friendship mindset. Like you get pressured by the other person, right? A lot of the time as well. So yeah, it's a tough one, but it does exist. And I think duoing is pretty big with Smurfing. Like Smurfing while duo is probably, I don't know if it's more popular, but probably as popular as Smurfing alone.
Wow. Yeah. You know, you talk about wasting time. Can you elaborate on that, Charles? Like why you feel like you've wasted so much time? That's the sort of the, because I mean, you've done, I know I've seen Charles' solo queue journey. He's done a lot of that.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's just wasted time because like, it's just like Curtis was alluding to before, just avoiding the issue, you know, like you're only going to get as good as the games you're in. So if you're playing in lower games, you're not going to get better than the quality of the games you're in, especially when duo queue, because a lot of your problems are masked by the players you're playing with. And you just have such a distorted view of the game. Now, I didn't do it incessantly. I'm not going to say that I wasted years of my life or anything like that. I definitely still put in the fucking thousands of hours solo. But yeah, it can happen.
Yeah, and remember, this is the BBC Improvement Solo Queue podcast, guys. Like, yes, there's probably you probably still value some friendship things from that, right? Like some good
100%,
experiences.
yes.
You could even think back, you know, like we're again coming from the lens of like if you want to improve at the game, right? So
and we're setting a very high standard as well, like a high standard.
It's important because everyone's like, oh, BBC podcast doesn't want anyone to have fun.
But we're also talking about this. We haven't even mentioned, you know, just morally and just what that does for this the League of Legends community.
Yeah, the other players in the game.
The other players in the game. Like the whole conversation about smurfing is always through the lens of like, what am I going to be able to do through a smurf or me as the smurf? But like, let's empathize for a second, you know? Being put into a game, and we all know how shit it feels to be versing. Imagine a Smurf duo.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of the worst things that you could possibly verse, just ruining matchmaking. So, you know, again, the whole conversation about smurfing, we do need to factor in. It is just a morally, you know, dubious thing in general.
Yeah, for ruining the experience of other players.
Yeah, exactly
and Riot's very vocal about this, and they've made such good changes.
And they've done great changes.
Like the duo, from my understanding, if you duo queue together, you guys will be rocking up ranks really quick, right? Like if you're winning every game, like they fix.
Oh no,
it up.
they really push. I again, a common question. This is a complete, maybe a tangent, but I think important to note. The way the rank system is very, very sophisticated, because what happens is that if you're a new account and you have no history of being at like a lower ELA bracket, the system is like very good at picking up your rank, and it will push you up very, very quickly. But vice versa, if like, let's say you had this history of like having 3 seasons in gold, and then randomly, you start winning a bunch of games, it's not going to magically overnight give you insane LP games, because the system's thinking, well, there's no way you've got that much better that you deserve to get plus 35 and minus 15 overnight. Even if you win 15 games in a row, you're limited because the system knows that it's impossible for you to improve that fast. So like Riot take in a lot of historical data and your account history when factoring in how fast you should climb. So there's something to keep in mind.
Well, I mean, that's literally the allure of a fresh account. That's why people call it a fresh account, because it has no history.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
It's a clean slate. It's New Year's resolution time. Let's go.
Okay, next up we have MMR Michael. So this is someone who's the classic, my account is messed up. I need to create, the only way I can possibly climb and improve at the game is by making a fresh account. They're purely smurfing to fix the MMR of their account.
What do you mean by low MMR, Nathan? Just to clarify.
You mean like a messed up MMR?
Yeah, what does that look like?
Okay, yeah.
Having messed up MMR.
So that would be, plus 20 minus 21, or they're not getting, or it's like literally just even plus 20, or they're basically losing more LP than they're gaining, or it's just basically they're just not going anywhere because they think the problem with why they're not climbing is the LP gains. It's not the actual specific gameplay and decision making.
So Nathan, you've been very vocal in this podcast about pushing the idea of like fixing broken accounts.
Yes, I think it's a huge part of everyone's journey they should go through, because once you break that narrative that you can literally get better at the game and climb with an account, yes, it's harder than doing a normal account. That just mentally toughens you and just breaks that whole idea around like MMR. Like MMR is just a byproduct of decision making and specific decision making, and not the outcomes of games. And that sounds very obvious, but it's actually a hard mindset to internalize.
I want to even talk about this whole new MMR or fresh MMR thing through the lens of like wasted time. So like people, the argument that is made is it would take me longer to climb with this messed up MMR account.
Yes.
than it is to make a new account and climb, right? But then okay, so you've got this timeline, like you've got 2 timelines. If I just played on one account, where would I be? And then where would I be on this other one? But what they're not factoring in also on this other timeline is that all of those games where you're playing at a lower elo bracket, you're not actually getting better at the game because you're versing way lower caliber players. So even if you do climb a little bit faster in the short term, and even if you surpass your main even temporarily, what's going to happen is that all of that, you didn't learn anything. Whereas if you put all those games on your main that entire time, imagine how much learning you would have had in that, like, let's say it takes 50, 60 games or whatever. You know what I mean? So, like, I think a lot of people think of it as like they think they're wasting time trying to grind through fixing a broken account. That's the thing that holds people back.
And it could be very logical. People are like, well, yeah, all good. Like, I have the broken by concept mindset, the improvement philosophy, but it just doesn't make logical sense. I can apply that on a new account. I'll be rocketing it up. It's very logical.
Yeah, and look, there is merit to it, but at the same time, again, the real question is
the long-term damage that can do, because guess what? When it gets hard again, we do that again because that's what worked, right? So
exactly right.
It's actually a bit of a long-term mindset. Like, fix the account, learn to know that it's actually possible to fix an account by improving at the game, not by, just randomly getting lucky or winning games. It's about improving. Then that's just going to be broken down for you. You never know.
And I think all of us have literally all of us have fixed accounts.
Yes.
I like, you had that really doomed account that you fixed.
Diamond, I was Emerald 1, Diamond 4. I was in negative win rate. And then I brute forced that from Diamond 4 to Master Tier. That was, I think it was season 10 or whatever it is.
Yeah. I was the same in season 10 as well. I fixed an account, my account, when I went down to like Master Tier. Yeah. You can fix them
very quick. It was like 2 weeks. It was like a one
It's like
2 weeks.
You feel super demoralized, and then in 1 or 2 weeks you can fix it pretty darn quick.
And it was really a huge weight lifted off my shoulder when I just didn't think about the LP. I never even looked at the LP. Nothing. I just purely was just playing League of Legends. I had the most fun on that absolutely fucked account with the Emerald 1. I had the most fun climbing from. I still remember that Diamond 4 to Master climb. I was playing like Nunu. I was having a blast. I was like, I just randomly was Diamond 2. I was like, wow, I'm just playing good League of Legends. That makes sense. The system makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've sort of touched on a bit now. So we talked about the archetypes. Now, we're going to touch on a bit more here about why smurfing actually makes you worse at the game. Like, what's the...
Yeah, so like, Charlie, you mentioned before this idea that you're only as good as your counterpart, right? And we all view League as like, it's like rocking up to the gym. You're not going to grow lifting weights that are super easy to lift. You're going to grow by lifting. It's like resistance, right? It's the exact same thing in League. You build the skills through the quality of your opponent. So if you're not pushed, then you're not going to grow.
Muscle doesn't grow.
Muscle doesn't grow. Exactly right. So you need to face resistance in your games and be faced with problems that, in a way, out of your pay grade, to be able to then be like, well, okay, that's interesting. I need to change something here. And that's where the learning is. The learning is in that your inability to sometimes meet a challenge. That's where the learning is, that Goldilocks zone. And that's what the rank system inherently does. It puts you at that perfect point of resistance where games are not too hard that you're going to lose every game, but they're not too easy that you're going to win every game. That's the sweet spot. That's where all the growth is. It's like the perfect amount of weight. It's the perfect amount of resistance. And the beautiful thing, the rank system does it for you. That's the way the elo system works. But the moment you smurf, you're basically lowering that resistance massively. And there's no atrophy. Your muscles will just atrophy because there's no resistance.
Yeah, and like tying this back to dopamine a little bit, I might butcher this, but like your body releases a different chemical when you like do something for like enjoyment, like just pure pleasure, compared to when you achieve something. It's like, I mean, it might be dopamine and serotonin. I think it's those two. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah. But like the idea of checking something off a list or like doing something hard, right? That releases a more like a version of dopamine, which is more like sustainable and just healthier for you, right? And I think that's what the rank system does when you face those hard games. It's also kind of aligned with how we coach as well and like look to improve at the game. It's like we know that the best games to learn from are the games where you're versing someone who's putting you to the test. Like let's say you want to improve your trading. You're not going to learn to improve your trading versing someone 2 divisions lower than you because you don't need to trade well to win. So what stress are you going to be under? Like we rise to the challenge that we're put to, and when humans are really good, you always say this, Nathan, at conserving energy. We'll just do the bare minimum unless we're pushed to do it.
Your default is to do bare minimum. You have to literally go above and beyond.
And on this topic,
Willpower.
Sorry to use the concept of the weight gym analogy, but Stefan reached out to me. He has like a friend who's super nerdy into the science of like lifting and
Exercise science.
Exercise science, yeah. And he sent me this really awesome kind of concept where in the fitness world, he was saying how if you train a muscle while fatigued, a common problem, what happens is that people overcompensate by engaging other muscles and engaging in poor technique to offset the fact that they're fatigued. And if you do this quite often, it actually will lead, there's a thing or a common concern is you actually pick up bad technique, poor form as a result of training, while you're super fatigued. So ideally you'd really want to focus on that particular muscle and have like really good form. But if you're constantly doing poor technique, you actually, in a way, create bad habits. Now, tying this back to League, one of the biggest problems with Smurfing, why it makes you worse, is that let's say you're an Ezreal main in Master Tier, and you play Ezreal in Gold, you can get away with completely using your W in an incorrect way. You can get away with completely mismanaging your waves. You can get away with completely messing up your resets. And then so what happens then, you're actually creating bad habits. So this is why if you constantly are making new accounts, you're constantly smurfing, people think, oh, it's fine, I just won't get better. No, you will get worse because you're literally picking up bad habits that aren't getting punished. So when you do eventually get back to your rank, you will get exposed and you actually go backwards. So I am a massive believer in this, and it's a bit of a tangent, but also this is the idea of why playing your main account and main champion in normals, your main champion and main role in normal games with friends is also a big mistake because you're versing a lower caliber of opponent whereby you can create bad habits.
Muscle memory is a huge part of the game, and play patterns and knowing your damage. And, like let's say, again, I'm thinking about playing like an Ezreal or just any champion, right? At this point in the game, let's say you're smurfing and you just dominate everyone. They're like really squishy. Like everyone's gonna be really easy to kill. So your damage limits are gonna be really off. You know what I mean? Like that muscle memory.
You're just used to playing from ahead.
Yeah, you're just from ahead. So then when it's like you play, back in your actual skill of a rank, it's like, wow, like I have to like sweat to trade and sweat to, it's.
You forget what normal League of Legends feel like.
Yeah, you've literally completely just thought about normal League of Legends. Imagine if you're constantly playing the game one item ahead of everyone. How different of a game you're playing than everyone else, or playing at your real games in your actual rank.
I mean, speaking about that making you worse at the game as well, it also just like, obviously the in-game stuff matters, but just your view of everything. I like one of the best things League of Legends can teach you is long-term thinking, right? In terms of we have to think on a very long time horizon if we want to improve at the game, because that's the only way to stop looking at the LP. We have to think about improvement, not who do I want to be tomorrow or this week or next week. Who do I want to be in 6 months in League of Legends, right? Smurfing immediately tightens the time horizon to like days, weeks, like
days.
They literally think like, okay, we're going to make a new account. I'm going to skyrocket back to my rank in a couple of days, and then we're going to go from there. It's like, wow, your time horizon has shrunk to 1 billion. You're instantly just thinking about results instead of thinking about like long-term, because we all know that like long-term thinking is like a beautiful skill for life that League can teach you, and you're literally robbing yourself of that if you're playing on Smurf.
And this is, I know we had this a little bit later on the agenda, but I think this ties in beautifully with why smurfing can feel so addictive. Like it's addictive because, again, like not only are you, the games just feel easier, so you're getting fed, and getting fed is obviously fun, and there's a lot of dopamine in that regard. But then also, like you said, you're climbing so quickly, so the time span of your entire journey is just, it's condensed. It's like this massive like sugar rush of like just I'm getting, oh my god, look at all the LP games. I'm climbing through divisions in days, rather than I was stuck at this rank for weeks. You know what I mean? Like, so like that's one of the big kind of selling points for why it's so addicting. What are some other reasons, guys, you think it's addicting?
I mean, I guess it just ties back to kind of what you were saying about other games. Like the idea of a video game is kind of like, I'm going to be strong, right? I'm thinking like Master Chief in Halo, or like I was just thinking like games I played as a kid, like Ratchet and Clank. Like you're just the strongest guy, right? You're just going level to level. I'm going to kill the enemies. They're not going to kill me. And then I'm just going to run around and be strong. And that's kind of how video games are viewed.
Yeah,
right?
I was trying to think. I'm trying to think about, a normal sport. Like it's actually really boring for like someone to like rock up to like, it's like you're playing versus kids or whatever. It's like
an adult coming to like kids.
Yeah, that's like for yourself. that's like really demeaning and like really frowned upon. Like maybe some psychopaths out there just this adult just rocks up to a bunch of kids games, just dunking on it, all these kids and stuff. But in video games, it's a completely different culture, isn't it? Because you don't know the other person; they're just characters, right, on the other side of the screen, and you just run around, just kill everyone. They could just, in your mind, they're just other adults that are really, busting their balls trying to win the game.
Yeah, it's actually a bit weird when you think about it, because in traditional sports that wouldn't really happen as much, would it?
Smurfing,
It would be always always kind of
boring,
playing. You're playing at a level that's always kind of matched with.
Well, to play devil's advocate slightly, I guess the counter argument could be that like playing the games in League actually that gets you somewhere. For if you did that in real life, you just go down to the park or you played in a lower division. Like, what are you gaining from that? But in League, you're actually getting League
virtual
points.
points.
True.
There is at least something to get from it.
True.
But it is. So I don't think it's that psychotic, but it's certainly not great.
Yeah, that's too extreme. Like the adult running around just like dunking on a bunch of kids, just some random game on the side on the street. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the bad side, the things that can go wrong with smurfing. How do you smurf correctly? Is there any positives when it comes to smurfing?
Well, I think you kind of hinted at it, Curtis, is kind of the opposite of playing your main champion, but playing other roles, other champions. Specifically, if you want to add a champion to your pool, it's actually better to smurf, but you need to smurf in the right kind of rank.
So I say let's say a Diamond 4 player, ideally best case scenario, has an Emerald 4 account to learn champions on, or even high platinum would be fine. Anything after that, like maybe 500, 600 LP range, then your borderline, your game sense is so high that you're actually not probably actually going to learn much about the champion.
Yeah, I think that's a good rule of thumb. Like 500 LP is a good like baseline, but I would also say it depends on what you're learning. For example, like Nathan, when you learned top lane, 500 LP wouldn't have even been enough, right? You learned because you were learning a whole new role.
2,000 LP down.
Right, that would be like,
Is there even 2,000 LP in the game? That's a lot of LP.
Sorry, that's maybe like 1,500 LP or something.
But even for all of us, like, when you first learn a new role, like you need to be on an account that's probably significantly lower than 500 LP if you're learning a new role, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if I was learning jungle, I wouldn't learn in 500 LP. You know what I mean? I'm at, like, let's say I'm at 1,000 LP or something. I wouldn't learn at 500 LP.
You're like masters.
Yeah, I probably want to be on like a zero P master, right? But my point is that, like, I think it depends what you're learning and also the archetype. So, for example, like, let's say there's a mid laner. I can just speak from a mid laner perspective. You've only ever played mages, and then you're now learning Zed. That is going to be a massive difference. So I would be like okay with the idea of being a little bit flexible on that LP. Threshold. That's kind of what if we're getting really specific, I would kind of want to throw.
And the games will show you, like, if you go down and it's either too easy or too hard, then you kind of know you're in the wrong area. Honestly, it's kind of a tough one though, because not everyone has like a little inventory of Smurfs to pull out the perfect Smurf to play the game on. It's all a bit hypothetical, but this is kind of like something to aim towards. Obviously,
like the mindset.
You can't choose what games you get to play in the account you have, right? So we kind of have to do the best you can. So yeah, it's kind of rough to talk about because, I mean, we haven't really put it on the docket at all, but like making a new account, like getting a new account, buying a new account, like not everyone even has multiple accounts.
Nowadays you have to level them really. That's the thing.
They get banned.
They get banned, yeah, right, where it cracks down. So yeah, I mean, I would say getting a second account is a big time investment. You have to level it.
Huge time investment.
Huge time investment. But I do think everyone, if you're taking your league journey seriously, you should have a second.
Invest in leveling.
Should invest in leveling up a second account, have it much lower, and that's for learning new champions.
Get the 1 hour playlist going. Just smash a bunch of normal games, bot games, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
I actually listen to audiobooks.
There you go. There you go. So you actually can be useful. It could be you could kill two birds with one stone.
Some people have been critical of the idea we've seen of learning new champs and roles on a second. Like, isn't that still smurfing? And yeah, like there's no perfect way of doing it, but think about it. Would it be morally worse to play it on your main?
Just ruin the game for
everyone else, or and this is where no one's perfect, but it's just about trying to be honest and be like, well, roughly, you might even not even go straight onto your Smurf. You might even just play normal games. Like some people who don't have a second account, you can learn secondary champs in norms and flex. Obviously, it's not ideal, but
especially if you're going like within the same class. Like if I'm going from like Oriana to Mel, probably play a couple of normals, then just head in.
Exactly
you know?
right. Exactly right. I'm not gonna for me, when I learned Mel, I didn't play on a second account. I just went basically straight. Yeah, I think I went straight in on my ranked on my main because it's so similar to the champs that I've played before. It's not that hard. But yeah, it depends on the archetype, of course.
Okay, now moving on to content creation when it comes to Smurfing. This is very popular on the YouTubes. People like to enjoy watching people Smurf, clearly.
Well,
Yeah.
it's more than that. It's actually like marketed as educational.
Yes.
And I think this, because you called yourself out for this a while ago. You did a video where you were playing on Annie, trying to kind of I don't know what rank, but in a lower
I
rank.
think it was in bronze.
Bronze, yes.
Like proving how it's not hard to climb out of bronze playing Annie. You don't have to do many things was kind of what your premise was. I can win by kind of just doing the basics, right? But then what you failed to identify, which you then did later, was all the invisible stuff you were doing, which was contributing to the win, even if your character wasn't necessarily doing it. Like, do you want to go deep on that?
Yeah, so I'm the first to admit I fell for that trap of smurfing content, and I realized doing it, just as the person doing it, that it's all of the small things and visible things that you do that lead to a player having success on the rift. So I remember vividly, like, just thinking back to my Annie experience, like I was perfectly using my E in every fight, perfectly timing my E with every major fight. I was perfectly spacing in my R and making sure that I was actually keeping my distance and tethering, not getting hit by skill shots. I was avoiding skill shots. I was just positioning very effectively in fights. And these are things that like just completely fly over the radar. They just go over everyone's head. We're not talking about that. We just see the obvious big things. I'm hitting these abilities. I'm doing this big thing. And like, I think that my biggest gripe with smurfing content creation is that it kind of misleads people into thinking what climbing is really about. And, you know, it's all the small things that are completely overlooked. And then what it does, it kind of, in a way, it gaslights the community. It gaslights the community because the content creator goes in and says, all right, this is all I'm doing. I'm just going to be doing these things.
That's the word. It's like, this is just what I'm doing. This is all I'm doing.
It's this simple.
Yeah.
It's this... It's this simple, and it's almost like this way of speaking down. And again, I'm the first one to admit I fucked up on this, and I reflecting back on it, it's borderline cringy, the fact that I even did that. But it's like you get tricked as a high elo player, and a lot of higher elo people are guilty of this, where they don't realize how good they are at the game because they've played thousands upon thousands upon thousands of hours of games, and they don't even realize half the things that they're doing. It's muscle memory. It's second nature. It's ingrained. And like you were talking off camera, Charlie, about like where you just watch one of your team fights, and it's all these small little things that like you can't even articulate what you're doing. So much is happening so fast. You're gathering and processing so much information intuitively. You can't possibly begin to teach that. That's just through tens of thousands of hours in your case of playing the game. And I think smurfing content does more of a disservice. Now people say, oh, it helps me. Like I can see the reference points and I can see how they're executing, you know, good ability usage. But the problem is that the way they're executing that is, it will never, ever, ever look like that in your games. And even if you try to execute it, it won't be the same. And I remember, I'm not going to like use specifics, but basically I remember there was this one example of a particular champion where they're, all right, guys, I'm going to have the wave in this particular position. And now that I've got the wave in this position, I can just walk up and now I can take this good trade. But in the process of doing so, they perfectly spaced. They tethered and then made the enemy mistether, which allowed them to get in range, which then was like, wait, but
That's massive.
But if they don't mistether, this play doesn't work, and then you don't get this kill, and then now you're not snowballing, and then you can't get that reset, and then boom, but it starts a whole chain series of events. And in the average person, that bronze or silver player's game, that's not what it's going to look like. The game is in an alternate reality instantaneously.
I think it goes to, again, how we view League mostly as a fighting game rather than like a macro strategy game. Like that's always completely overlooked or disrespected from everyone in the community. And it's very hard it's so just think about how hard it is to talk about that situation. You know, like you're not going to say it's like, okay, now I'm going to tether. It's just that habit. That's so
that happens so quick.
Yeah, and if I was to say that, you actually would just fail and flop. Like you have to.
Like, what the hell is he talking about?
Yeah, it's really hard to do that. To talk about humans would have to. You have to be like some crazy AI bot or whatever to be able to process and explain that amount of information and process that. That YouTube format is really hard for that. Or
and it's not even that the content creator. I don't even think. I'm just gonna say like I think a lot of content creators that do this Smurf content, they actually don't have any ill intent. They don't even know. You know what I mean? They're not even consciously aware, a lot of them, of all the things they're doing. They're just, they genuinely have good intention. They're trying to show concepts and explain them, yada, yada, yada. But I just don't think it's possible to do it on a much lower account. Like, you could be a little bit lower. Like, again, a challenger player in Master, whatever. But as soon as you start to get, like, a challenger player in, like, silver, bronze, gold, platinum, emerald, it's...
We're at the circus.
You're in the circus at that point. Very, very quickly.
Going back to my my adult rocking up to a kid's basketball game, just slam dunking on everyone.
I'll show you how it's done, boys. Like,
is that simple?
So that's kind of the whole thing. And then Charles, you kind of mentioned this whole like there's this culture behind Smurfing, this 1v9 mentality, this idea of what it takes to improve and climb in League of Legends.
Yeah, so it's kind of tied into what we were saying before about like why Smurfing makes you worse at the game. There's just a slew of reasons why. Another one is that it teaches you that you have to 1v9 to win. Because when you're constantly being put in these games where you're just like, you are objectively better than those around you, you're going to feel like you need to outperform everyone. You're going to have to play the best in the lobby. You probably will play the best in the lobby a lot of the time. And then when you try and play on your main account, or if you ever do, you might carry over, and people often do carry over that same mentality of, I need to get a lot of kills to win the game. I can't rely on my teammates because like my teammates are worse than me, because they usually are in the Smurfs case. And it just distorts, like, it's like what you were saying earlier. I can't remember if it was off camera or not, Nathan, but like, how do I win a game if I'm not 5-0 at 10 minutes? You lose the ability.
one item ahead of everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. So like we know that climbing in League of Legends is largely doing your job. It's boring. It's a lot of saying no. But the way you win as a Smurf, it kind of is that. But the way most people Smurf is not doing that. It's saying a lot of
hard carrying.
It's like, I'm gonna mechanics check everyone in the game, which you obviously can't do when you play at your level. So you just fall flat. You get good at winning the low games, and you become worse at winning the high elo games.
Yeah, you got to change the language. It goes from 1v9 mentality to doing your job.
Yeah,
as you said, like, I view 1v9 mentality when I am Jarvan and I'm 1-0 and 19. A lot of people would be like, wow, that is literally, you're just getting carried, you're supporting. But the amount that I would have done in that game, that is playing League of Legends. I would have... a lot of the plays that I didn't go for is 1v9 in.
But just I think because people will easily misinterpret this, I'll say, but just because you won 0-19, it doesn't necessarily mean you played well. Like maybe your job is to carry. You know what I mean? Like that's actually the way the game works. Like sometimes you have to be the carry because that's you're like a Kha'Zix jungle, all the resources, you traded off you chose to prefer camps over helping your lane, and you have all the resources, and you counterpicked in draft, and blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes your job is to be the carry. Now, that's not going to be every game, though. Sometimes your job is to be that 1-0-19 Jarvan where you're just kind of complementing your secondary win conditions and being there for utility. But sometimes just the way the cookie crumbles, you have to be the carry.
I think that even hurts the Kha'Zix play there, Curtis, the 1v9 mentality. Because there's going to be plays that they're going to be brute force in that is going to ruin the game. And their job in that specific moment was not to be in this 1v9 mentality and try and win the fight, is to not take the high percentage.
Well, being a carry doesn't need...
Guys, the word carry is just a scary word to use.
It's like, so out of context.
But I don't really, in this, getting clear about the terminology, when I use the word carry, I don't mean 1v9. I mean that you are just the primary win condition.
I see. Yeah, that's what you mean.
So, like, to be clearer, yes, in my context, I'm saying Kha'Zix, you might be the primary win condition. The game is going to revolve around you because that's how that composition of that game had to play out, right? So, like, I just think, like the way you framed it very eloquently, Nathan, it's going from 1v9 to doing your job, whatever that is, whatever your job is, to either be carried, to to be the not the lose condition, or to be the win condition, or be the secondary win con, or to be purely utility, whatever. It's just let it come.
Yeah, it's like I was saying last week about my Jin versus Twitch game where I played. My job that game was not to die to Twitch. So did I 1v9 that game by not feeding the Twitch? Like, maybe. It's kind of like here what you've got on the docket, like what improving at the game and like what winning the games actually looks like compared to what Smurfs think games look like. It's like Smurfs, we're going to climb with like an 80% win rate. What an actual player climbs with, like a 52, 53% win rate, right? So it really ruins your view of like what climbing is. The expectations get so distorted.
Yeah, climbing and improving. You actually
Correct.
will improve. Going back to Curtis saying you're not really improving smurfing and, the muscle,
Like resistance.
That's the crazy thing. People think that the improvement is like, oh, wow, I'm 80%. I must be so good at the game. Improvement comes at 50. The best players that have improved, or when I've improved, I've had like a 51% win rate. That's my best gameplay.
And I actually will go to the extent where if I go into a lobby and after that, like I verse someone, I beat them, usually the players that I like, the easiest players to beat are those people with those OPGs that have super high win rates and they're like super fragile, the new accounts, because they're not those grinders that are sitting there. They've got like 600 games on one account, just like constantly, like, you know what I mean? Like, they're the ones that are actually, for me, more.
Yeah, you look at Korean solo queue, all of the best players on that server, thousands of games, all the high ranks. I love seeing those accounts. It's like 1,000 games, like half a year done, like 1,000 wins, like 900 losses. Like, we're just up there playing shit tons of games.
Yeah.
It's like 1,000 wins.
They're
like,
the scary players.
It's like 1,000 wins, 950 losses or whatever.
Yeah, it's
something like
awesome.
that.
And I think it's important to note that when we talk about smurfing here, the archetype that maybe we should have done is like the master tier mic, because I think master tier players are the biggest smurf culprits because again, we've been very vocal in this podcast about master tier being that giant wall. It's that giant wall that you slam your face in. It's like, oh my god, like this is so hard. Climbing to Grandmaster and Challenger is so hard that why would I bother trying to go from master to Grandmaster or Grandmaster to Challenger when, you know what, I can just smurf on 95 or 98% of the solo queue ladder. So the biggest culprits are those master tier players that they just constantly, they get to that giant plateau. That's the big big plateau. And then they go back and they grind to diamond or smurf to diamond.
And that's the kind of culture where people, they get the win rates to master tier or to diamond or whatever, they screenshot it and then they share it with their friendship groups, and like, I just get this feeling there's like these groups of people in these Discords sharing these screenshots, and
they never show you what the account looks like after that, because what happens, they lose. They start losing. They plateau.
We even saw that with the Emerald case study that we did. Remember that guy? I can't remember his name, Delirious or something. He posted a screenshot of him getting to a rank, I think it was Diamond, with a really beautiful win rate. And then by the time it came for us to record the episode, that account was literally negative win rate because he
dropped.
plateaued.
Yeah, he plateaued and then dropped, yes.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with plateauing. It's exactly the way it should be. And it's about reframing. It's like reframing that plateau is a good thing. You want in a way to plateau, because that's now my level of play. Now, great. It's so easy for me to now know where I'm at. Cool. And now I can just start to really dial in.
All right. Does that wrap up our smurfing conversation? Any other topics we missed here?
I want the community to let us know what did we miss in regards to smurfing? What are your thoughts on, any archetypes of Smurfs or smurfing archetypes that we missed? And yeah,
because I think one of the biggest motivations behind doing this topic is like, there's obviously been a lot more discourse in the comments and on the Skool community recently about our recent episodes, and that's awesome. That's why we do this. Like, we want to talk about like the kind of thing that you guys want to talk about. So we're not just here to lecture you on like why smurfing is bad or why smurfing is good. We're just kind of here to like lay out our experience. I've spoken about my personal experience. We've spoken about some of our members' experience, and we want to speak about your experience, because there's obviously so many ways we could take this conversation. We haven't really talked about how Riot could ban Smurfs or the whole smurfing is a problem kind of thing. There's a lot of other angles, but I think we'll probably leave it there for today.
The Broken by Concept podcast is the podcast of the people, of the League of Legends community.
It's that simple.
All right, moving on here. Talking about the community and the podcast of the people, we have our Skool community here. It's free to join. There'll be a link in the description, wtl.lol/Skool with a K. Nick here made a post. In Iron and in Challenger, your champion does the same thing. Do you want to TLDR this one for us?
Yeah, it's a long post. I wanted to bring up this post today because I just love the idea. So basically the post is saying how, there's sometimes we forget that at the end of the day, all the champs, no matter what rank you are, you're just playing the same champion, right?
The same
Faker,
limited capabilities, pixels on the screens. Charles always likes to use the terminology. Champions are simply just cooldowns.
Yeah, we all have the same stats, and it's really freeing. It's like we're all playing the same game, the same. You can take the exact same rune page, build the exact same items. You're all loading onto the game with the exact same. There's no advantages. So reframing it is like, if I'm losing with my champion in gold, and then that person is winning in challenger with the same champion, right? It's like, okay, well, there has to be some sort of user error here because we're playing the same champion. And just like that way of framing it is it's so simple, but so effective. And basically Nick here was saying like, it took him so long to actually mentally come to terms with this. And like when you say it out loud and when he finally realized that, even though it sounds obviously basic, but like framing it that way allowed him to kind of be like, you know what? Okay, I'm obviously doing some things wrong. Let's figure out what the difference are. How are they piloting that champion differently to me? And I love that any post or any of these revelations that get that basically people have that tie back to champion mastery and just that we're just playing the same champion. What are they doing differently than me? It's so freeing. You know what I mean? It's such a mentally freeing way of thinking about the game. And yeah, that's kind of basically why I wanted to bring it up. I just love the way he's framed it.
I think where people struggle with this concept is a lot of people think for some reason still that the game isn't really much about champ mastery and everyone has 4 abilities. How hard is it? I can pretty much play Azir like Faker. Like, I know that I'm not that level, but I'm not that far off. He has game knowledge and he has
strategy
tactics. That's what's taking him over the edge. But I think it's just once again a massive disrespect. People don't realize playing a champion is the game.
It is the game.
I went hard on someone in a review recently because they said like I can play every ADC.
That's right, exactly.
And I'm
that
like,
was delirious.
Maybe he said that as well. But this guy, I find this happens a lot with old school players.
Mm.
Like if you think this, if you're listening to this, and like, guys, I can play every champion. I can play at least 10. I can play 10 champions. Well, what you need to do is you need to reframe your definition of can play. Like, you can lock in that champion. You can click around the rift and use the abilities. But can you really play? Like, raise your bloody standards to what you mean by to play a champion. Because, yeah, I can play every champion in the game, but
theoretically,
can I really?
Yeah, it's just that simple. People's standards are so low for piloting a champion.
No, but it's actually more specific that its standards are so low for ability usage.
Yeah, abilities.
Yeah.
So like when you really get in, when I see in reviews, you really get into the skirmishing. You see in all ranks.
You see some shit.
Atrocious ability usage. It's like, or sometimes they even forget to use abilities. So like, I honestly think, I did a daily tidbit this week about just focus on one ability. Like, honestly, like I that's one of my most practical pieces of advice. Pick one champion in your pool, a champ that you feel like you're maybe not performing on that well. What's their core ability? Echo W. It might
Jinx
be
E.
Jinx E. Boom. What would be a jungler with like one clear ability you could get a lot of value from?
I for some reason I always think about Lilia E. The Lilia E usage is
bowling ball mindset.
Yeah.
Right? So what you would do is like
them out.
literally go to all of your fights and look at how you use that one ability. And then go to a high level player and watch how they use that ability and just make some basic observations. If you change the way you use one ability and level up the way you use that one ability, I guarantee you it's going to have a marked effect on your effectiveness.
That's why I was good at Lilia.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I got to like 800 LP playing Lilia, and it was mostly because of that one. I spec'd very hard on my E's.
Yeah, and it's just completely game changing. I think about he talks about in the post here about Emerald Graves. Like, a huge part of the guide, my Graves guide with Parby that we emphasized was how to properly use Q. Your Q is sort of viewed as more of like an execute move rather than stand, because you're standing. If you use Q, you stand still. You're actually not getting in front of them. You want to auto attack and get on top of people's heads as Graves and sort of use Q as like sort of a finisher move, unless you can wallbang it, and that completely changes your outcome of you miss. You're going to get so many more kills. If you just miss 2 kills in a game from simply just using your abilities incorrectly, different game you're playing.
Yeah.
The amount of kills we see missed in League of Legends that are right in front of their face they could get just by
Yes.
bad ability usage is unbelievable in reviews.
League of Legends is a fighting game. We want to pretend we're playing Street Fighter. Those players, good Street Fighter players, that's all they can do. They rock up. They just want to hit their combos in the right order. Some people need to have that mindset more in League of Legends.
Yes, absolutely. All right, mailbag time. Away we go. Welcome back for Nathan's mailbag. Jingle, jingle, jingle song. Alrighty then. Our first question here comes from a very grateful student. Wanted to be named anonymous. Ashamed tilter reaching out. Master tier EU West. Curtis was talking about, was it Master tier Mike?
Yeah.
Maybe we might have a Master tier Mike on our hands here. Dear esteemed coaches, writing this email is something I never thought I'd do. I always thought tilt and rage is something I'd just grow out of, but I still am here at 30, a 32-year-old man with a full-time job, a loving fiance, a house, and hopefully soon my own children. But I've come to the realization that tilt and rage are my never-ending inner demons. A bit about my league history. BBC listener for 2 years. EU West ADC league player since season 1 with a few breaks here and there. Long-time plat player, recent master tier peaker. Historically, I played with friends, mindlessly spamming games, but over the past couple of years, I've taken your words and set myself on the road of improvement, which objectively speaking is what's happened as I've hit all-time highs. That said, I'm not proud of myself at all. I routinely get very upset and angry at myself and my team. I'm ashamed to say the following. Many times when I have made a misplay, such as not flashing a key ability, I've hit myself or broken objects. I've responded to my teammates flaming me by soft inting fairly regularly. I get so worked up that my evenings have been regularly ruined. This is not who I want to be. This has been happening for years, and I can't see the end in sight. I absolutely love this game, and the idea of being able to improve and perfect my passion is incredible. But I've come to accept that this visceral reaction to the game is just simply not okay. It wouldn't be fair to say it happens every time. Some weeks I will be fine. I can control my emotions, let them wash over me, and move on. But other weeks, it's every time I sit down for a 3-block every game. Sometimes I can keep chat muted and turn off pings, and other times, the first time anything happens, I'll be typing or raging. I know I'm not a victim here and have tried a few things. I've been playing lacrosse for years and gymming 5 times a week for years too. I have good friends, I eat well and look after myself and generally am happy with my life. I've tried taking breaks, weeks or months, and when I first come back, it's generally fine. But when improvement is on my mind, I start to slip. I really am at a loss for what to do. I accept that I'm not perfect and make many mistakes a game, which when I do review, which is probably like 1 out of 6 games, I can see them and try to correct them. But in the moment, a lot of the time, all I see is red. I'm not sure why this is the case. Some theories I have is that I believe I attach a lot of my worth as a LoL player to my rank in LP. Losing LP is almost like a personal attack, but really I'm not sure. I'm anticipating you to tell me to stop playing altogether, which is actually a hard pill to swallow. I don't like accepting that this is me and always will be. I would like to improve, to change, but I just don't know where to start. Thank you for spending the time reading and hopefully discussing this email. I'd appreciate any reply, or if you'd like more details, ask.
I got something to start with. So, I think the problem with some people who get emotional in the game is you might feel as though you want to remove the emotion. It's not about removing the emotion. It's about dealing with the emotion. And there's a couple of ways you can do that. There's a quick analogy in Star Trek. There's a race called the Vulcans, and they're a very logical species, right? In Voyager, there's this character Tuvok who's very logical and purely objective. Like people can like be hurt around him and die or whatever, and he's just like very logical, just like do the next thing. And it's come about more into this later in the seasons that like he feels emotions. He's just like a master of dealing with them. He never lets them affect his decision making. And that's what the Vulcan race do in Star Trek, to nerd out a little bit there. And that's what we want to be doing as League players. We are emotional. We're human beings. I get pissed. These guys get pissed when we play games. What we're better at than the average player is actually dealing with the emotion immediately, limiting the amount of time that you're pissed off for. That's the main goal. It's like, take your rage. Let's say you're angry for like a whole game. Reduce it by a bit. Reduce it by a bit more. Try and like just get it out of your system and then move on really quickly. That's kind of the skill set you want to build, is like limit the amount of time you're angry for. But it's also some out of game tools, which I'm sure we can get into, like don't review the game immediately after the game, review it later. Like we were having a chat with one of our coaches, Mysterious, a bit earlier. And he said like, yeah, just step away from the computer after a game. Don't force yourself to play that next one. Like step away from the computer, reflect, and then maybe take a look at the game a bit later. But yeah, that might sound a bit generic, but I think that whole mindset of like, I want to stop being angry is a terrible thought process to go down. You're going to be angry. Let's just learn to deal with being angry, play well anyway, and then also limit the amount of time you're angry for.
Yeah, a lot of great advice. Something I would add on is, yeah, so basically what you've got is, at a high level, there's two things that you need to do. You need, number one, identify the root cause of your frustration, right? Because that's very broad. I get tilted. Okay, well, why? Right? You need to ask yourself, you be really honest with yourself and have a tough conversation with yourself about why that is the case. Everyone tilts for different reasons.
It might be a narrative about it playing with a specific champion or something. You can get really granular.
You can get very granular. I think in his case, it's likely something to do with expectations, toxic expectations about how good he is at the game or should be at the game, given how long he's played the game for. That's a common narrative for people that have played the game for a very long time, such that every game that you lose, it's a stab in the heart because you feel as though you should be climbing and getting more results or be better. That could be one. It's an idea, right? I'm not saying that is the case. It could be. So, like, what I would try to do is identify those moments where you're getting frustrated and ask yourself 5 whys. I got really, really pissed here when X event happened. Okay, why? Okay, well then, why does that bother me? And then why does that bother? And then you if you do this exercise, you'll find out really, if you're really, really honest with yourself, you'll find out what is it that is bothering you. And it could be that you're attaching your self-worth to your level of play. It could be that you have toxic expectations. It could be a combination of those things. And once you've identified that, then you can start to make progress at kind of developing toolkits to kind of deal with those particular stage 4 issues. I felt as though with some of our members in the past, where like, if we don't get granular and we just talk high level about tilt, it's not practical. It's not very high level. I can't actually help you. Okay. So that's number one. Number two is that, like Charlie was mentioning before, toolkits. You need to find toolkits that help you reduce. Well, there's two actually types of toolkits. Number one, toolkits about reducing the severity of your emotions, but there's toolkits that help you deal with those emotions. So if you're having extreme outbreaks of emotion, that's a problem, because it's hard to help. It's hard to like change behavior when you're like going from 0 to 100. So the real question is, why is it at 100? Why have you gone from happy chappy to throwing shit at a wall? Well, okay, well, let's address that first. And that's where, again, I guess that dialogue comes into play, getting into that. But then we can get into, okay, what toolkits can we develop? And then that's where Charles, like, getting off the PC, asking high quality questions. I'm really pissed here. Okay. All right. But what's next? What's my job here? What's the next neutral? What am I going to do about it? What's happening with the wave? Okay, now what? Like distracting your mind with something else that you can think about or something to do practically goes a very, very long way. There's something that I do. If I'm pissed in a game, my first instinct now at this stage is, okay, all right, I'm a bit pissed. That sucks. All right, now this is the game state. And I'll really try to like distract my mind practically in what I need to do next. Now, with all that being said, I think that, like you said, Charlie, like the toolkit in League that it teaches is emotional regulation. And what it sounds like to me is likely that you've just developed bad habits when it comes to emotional regulation during your time playing League. You've got complacent or comfortable raging. That's just your habit, your default response over the years of playing League. Something negative happens, something sets you off, you get really angry, and you've allowed that to persist for a very long time. So when it comes to changing behavior and changing habits, you can't just at a click of a finger be like, I don't want to do that anymore. that's not going to happen. You need to replace that habit with something else. And this is like this whole concept in psychology, kind of talking about kind of grooving, this whole idea that like, a habit is essentially a neural pathway that has been basically used over and over and over again, such as hyper efficient. It's the most efficient neural pathway. But instead to replace that, you can't just be like, all right, I'm going to, not do that anymore.
Go 0 to 100.
You need to replace that neural pathway with something else over time. And think of it like a pathway in a forest, on like a nature walk. There's grass pathways where the more it's walked on, the more well-treaded it's become, the more visible it becomes. It's easier to follow. So you need to start building a habit there, okay? I'm angry. Instead of throwing a keyboard at a wall, I'm going to ask myself a high-quality question. Now, at the start, that's going to be very difficult because your habit that you've built up over time is very, it's very well ingrained. So then if you over time, though, over weeks and months, if you slowly develop that other habit instead, you've now replaced it, and that will become more well-worn, well-treaded than the other neural pathway. So it's an incremental journey of slowly but surely implementing toolkits, going outside, deep breaths, high-quality questions, addressing those stage 4 issues, having that tough conversation with yourself, and then over time, it is a muscle. Emotional regulation is a skill. It is a muscle within itself that needs to be developed. So there's a lot there for you to unpack, a lot there for you to have a think about. So yeah.
So this person here in the end of this email said, I reckon you guys will just tell me I should just need to stop. I need to quit. I would use this as an opportunity to build that muscle that you're talking about there, Curtis. This should be a fantastic. I love this. We're in
rock bottom.
We're in rock bottom. We're so disappointed with our behavior as a 32-year-old with a fiance, a loving fiance, and a full-time job. This is a good opportunity, and the league is going to teach you this. League is very good at teaching you this
because this will probably crop up in other areas of your life. Yes. Unfortunately, maybe it's in league now, but who knows? Maybe it's in another future career or another game. Like maybe you start playing games with your kids, or who knows where else is going to crop up. So I do believe we are big advocates here of using league as a mechanism or as a lens or a medium to improve upon these particular, in this case, emotional regulation. So yeah, hopefully that gives you a few tools or things to think about and play around with.
We're forcing you to play the game. And
don't quit on us, mate.
Do you not quit it on us, and you're going to get through this. And right back in.
Yeah, let us know.
In a couple of months' time. Could be years. It could take years. Who knows? All right, our next question here comes from Benji. The title of this one is Jungle Drugs.
That's a sexy title. That sounds almost like a Quentin Tarantino movie. Jungle Drugs.
Jungle Drugs.
Dear Nathan, Charlie, and Curtis.
It's a strange way to order the names. I don't think we've seen that one before.
Yeah, it's a new one. We've got an interesting title, and this is clickbait. Banji here has got the YouTube algorithm done now.
He's nailed the BBC algorithm.
Well, he's getting the email read, so it clearly worked, right?
First off, thanks for all your content and help. I started playing League in November of last year, and my mentality wouldn't be as strong without the help from you all. I've experienced playing Overwatch and tilting easily, but since I found your podcast, I've been much more level-headed and growth-oriented. I climbed from Iron 4 0 LP to Bronze 1 with your help. My question is as follows. Is getting into the jungle early into your journey a bad idea? I've been playing mainly mid lane mages, Ahri, Vex, and Swain, and climbing, but the jungle appeals to me. The timing of your play, the champ pool, your impact on the game, it's very enticing. A friend of mine wished they hadn't gotten into the jungle as their second role. And now I'm worried I'm getting into some hard drugs. I've been told that playing jungle is a completely different game. Should I follow the path? I've been playing a bit of Echo and Fiddlesticks, and I hope one day I can play Kindred.
Oh my god!
So it's obviously a bit more on the harder side of things.
You did this, Nathan.
Yeah, so I purely played jungle. I only jungled. I hated the idea of lane. I thought that jungle was broken by concept because I could simultaneously be the strongest person in the game just by not interacting with the people, right? And just fighting. So I would say my journey is very unique, and I wouldn't recommend it for this very simple reason. Going back to our conversation, how League is a fighting game. As a jungler, you experience way less fighting than everyone else on the map, which delays and slows your improvement quite a lot because you're not going to sort of have a feeling of people's abilities. Like, let's just think about, a jungler. they might interact with Victor mid 2 times or 3 times in the entire game, and like maybe 2 times, and the W, you're not going to really see the W. But if you're interacting with Victor as a mid laner, you're going to see Victor's E, WQ like all the time. You're going to really have a good understanding of how that champion works in one game. But a jungler might actually not even really know how Victor works, even though they played in the same game. And people might be saying, but can't the jungler interact with every champion in the game? Well, that goes back to like you're sort of a
Jack of all trades.
Jack of all trades. You're not actually really learning anything, and your mental's like so overwhelmed and all that sort of stuff. So that is really the core. I think where sort of dismantles the argument about why people don't recommend. I think it's because League is a fighting game, and I guess that's actually why the jungle role is attractive, because people think it's not. Jungle's like that secret role where you don't have to fight, you can play there, but it actually hurts. It's going to hurt your League journey in the long run, no matter what, regardless. So this is sort of just saying, an Iron 4 player learning jungle, I think it's not impossible, but I think it really slows down your muscle memory in terms and just your ability to fight in League of Legends.
It also sucks because like a jungler needs to know how to do things like space and tether and use abilities and dodge spells, but yet they almost need to know it more sometimes because it's so important to win those few skirmishes you have, but then you've got less opportunities to practice it. So like we've always like the best junglers often come from other roles. Like the best junglers I've coached, like Parbu, for example, who's a coach in Jungle Academy now. He was a top laner, very, very good top laner, like top 10 on the server, whatever, went to jungle, and then he's got the fighting down pat, right? So it's just about learning the role. So you're kind of doing it the right way, mate. Honestly, I would just keep it up for a little bit longer. I don't know exactly what you would say in terms of rank, Nathan, but...
Yeah, it's a good question. I reckon, I don't know. Silver, gold is sort
I was
of my
thinking
first
gold
thing.
4.
Gold 4, yeah.
Gold 4, you could probably get away with it in silver, but gold 4 would be safe.
Yeah, because a gold 4 players, like, we have sort of talking about people's abilities and stuff, like the skirmish and fighting is not that bad.
Yeah, no, I think high silver and low
us.
gold is a pretty insane ability usage. Just like fighting in general for the most part.
But what about the champions? Kindred, Echo, Fiddlesticks?
Yeah, so I think Fiddlesticks is fantastic. We go back to our tier list one, the champion pool. I think Echo, people got really angry, Curtis. Echo wasn't in jungle. I think Echo's more popular in jungle than mid. I think we had it in mid lane. Yep. Echo is a champ. It's one of my weaknesses as a jungle coach. I don't know how to coach Echo, and I don't really know where to put him in terms of difficulty. And Kindred, that's very on the complex side of things.
You want to delay Kindred for as long as possible.
Yeah, correct. I'll stick with Fiddlesticks would be my recommendation. Go all in on that if you're going to go down the jungle route.
Yeah, it's even more so in his case. If you want to play champs like Echo and Kindred, you would want to wait as long as possible before you dive in, right? Gold 4 for sure. So it's one of those tricky things. And look, we're here to give suggestions. If at the end of the day, if you're so motivated to play jungle and you want to do it, obviously you got to make your own decision. We're just here to just temper your expectations, manage your expectations. It will just make, in the long run, it will make your journey a little bit trickier. And the skills that you're going to have to develop. So it's the question is, do you want to develop them now? Do you want to develop them later? And if you were to develop your fighting and game, ability usage, now it will kind of make your jungle journey a lot more efficient.
The way I would put it is if you want to learn jungle now, you're going to have to go into debt.
Yes,
you're going to go into
that's a good way of
skill
doing
debt.
it.
You will have to pay off that debt later if you ever want to come back to learning how to play lane again. The debt will have to be paid, and you're going to eventually get to a point, even in the jungle role, where the debt's going to have to be paid in terms of doing your fighting.
Exactly right.
I paid that debt severely trying to get to challenge. I had to get
and you're in debt for so long that it's like it's like the credit card debt got so big that it was overwhelming
to pay the card off, and then
it gets out of control. And that's why it was so hard, Nathan, for you moving to learning lane because of that debt. And it's not impossible. It's just a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It doesn't have to be that hard.
Yeah. All right. Well, that wraps up our episode today, everyone. Big topic here. Smurfing. Different archetypes. Let us know in the comments. We'll see you guys on our next episode.